The rain had stopped just as we lowered Grandma Rose into the ground, like even the weather knew better than to disrespect her final moments. I stood at the edge of the grave, holding a single white lily, her favorite, while my aunts dabbed at dry eyes with designer handkerchiefs. They'd dressed for a fashion show, not a funeral, all black Chanel and calculated grief. Such a tragedy, Aunt Victoria murmured loud enough for the other mourners to hear. If only we'd noticed the dementia sooner. Aunt Patricia nodded sagely. The last 2 years were so hard. She didn't even recognize us anymore. I bit my tongue until I tasted copper. Didn't recognize them? Grandma Rose had recognized them perfectly. Recognized them for the vultures they'd always been, circling her estate like it was roadkill, and they were starving. Mr. Whitman, Grandma's lawyer for 40 years, stood quietly beside me. He'd been watching my aunt's performance with the same carefully neutral expression he'd worn during every family gathering where they'd tried to convince Grandma to sign various documents. "Ms. Harper," he said softly as the crowd began to disperse. "We need to speak privately." Victoria's head snapped up like a bloodhound catching a scent. "Whatever you need to discuss with our niece can be said in front of the family." "I'm afraid not," Mr. Whitman replied. "This is a matter specifically designated as private." Patricia stepped forward, her voice honey-sweet with implied threat. "Mr. Whitman, surely you understand that poor Jenna is grieving. We're her aunts. We should handle any legal matters." "The legal matters," he said, producing an envelope from his coat, "are hers to handle." He pressed a set of keys into my palm. Heavy brass with a small compass keychain. The one I'd given Grandma 20 years ago when I was 7, saving my allowance for months to buy it from the nautical shop near her beach house. "What is this?" Victoria's voice had gone sharp. "The beach house," Mr. Whitman said simply. "As requested." The silence that followed was deafening. Then, like a dam bursting, both aunts erupted. "Impossible. She had dementia. She didn't know what she was signing. We have doctor's statements. This is fraud. Elder abuse." Mr. Whitman waited for them to run out of steam, then smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. It was the smile of a man who'd been waiting years to play his ace. "Ladies," he said, pulling out a tablet. "If Mrs. Rose Sullivan had dementia and didn't know what she was signing, perhaps you could explain these?" He pressed play. Grandma's face filled the screen, sharp-eyed and clear-voiced, sitting in her library with the date stamp showing 6 months ago. "This is Rose Sullivan, being of sound mind and body, making this recording in the presence of my lawyer, Harold Whitman, and Dr. Rebecca Chun, neurologist at Cedar Grove Hospital." The camera panned to show both professionals, who confirmed their presence and Grandma's mental clarity. "Now," Grandma continued, her voice taking on the steel edge I remembered from childhood when she'd caught me sneaking cookies, "I need to document some things for posterity. Victoria, Patricia, I know you're watching this. Wave to the camera, dears." My aunts had gone pale. The video continued. "I'm making this recording because my daughters seem to think I've lost my marbles. Funny thing about that, they only think I'm demented when I won't give them money. When I'm signing checks, I'm sharp as a tack. Isn't that curious?" Mr. Whitman swiped to the next video. This one was security footage from Grandma's house, dated 3 months ago. It showed Victoria in Grandma's study, carefully removing cash from the emergency envelope in the desk drawer. "That's not," Victoria started. "There's more," Mr. Whitman said. The next clip showed Patricia in Grandma's bedroom, systematically going through jewelry boxes, pocketing several pieces. "I was just," and more. Video after video. Victoria using Grandma's credit card at Nordstrom while Grandma was at a doctor's appointment. Patricia writing checks from Grandma's checkbook, badly forging her signature. Both of them together, whispering in the kitchen about powers of attorney and involuntary commitment while Grandma sat in the next room, very much aware. "My favorites," Grandma's voice came from another video, "are when they visit their poor demented mother and steal from me while I'm sitting right there. They think because I'm quiet, I'm gone. But I've been documenting everything. Every theft. Every lie. Every cruel word they thought I couldn't understand." The final video was dated just 2 weeks before Grandma's death. She looked tired but determined, sitting with Mr. Whitman and 2 other witnesses. "I, Rose Sullivan, being of sound mind as certified by Dr. Chin this morning. Hi, Rebecca, make sure to waive that cognitive test I aced. Do hereby leave my beach house and its contents to my granddaughter, Jenna Harper." "Why?" "Because she's the only one who visited me without checking my wallet. Because she spent every summer with me as a child, learning to sail and fish and love the ocean like I do. Because when everyone else saw dollar signs, she saw her grandmother. Tears burned my eyes. I'd spent every weekend I could with Grandma, especially after Grandpa died. Not for inheritance, not for money, but because I loved her stories, her terrible jokes, her fierce independence. Furthermore, Video Grandma continued, I leave my remaining assets in trust for Jenna's education and future children, to be managed by Mr. Whitman until such time as she sees fit to claim them. To my daughters, Victoria and Patricia, I leave exactly what they've already taken, approximately $47,000 in stolen cash and belongings over the past 2 years. I have the receipts. She leaned toward the camera. Girls, I know you think I didn't notice. But mothers always notice. I noticed when you started visiting only when you needed money. I noticed when you tried to convince doctors I was incompetent. I noticed when you told Jenna not to waste time with the old bat, because you were afraid I'd leave her something. Well, congratulations. Your fear came true. The video ended. The silence in the funeral home was absolute. We'll contest this, Patricia said, but her voice shook. This is completely legal, Mr. Whitman finished. With video evidence of theft that I'm required to turn over to the police unless you walk away quietly. Your choice. Victoria's face had gone from pale to purple. That beach house is worth $2 million. 2.5, I corrected quietly. Grandma had it appraised last year. They turned on me in unison, and for a moment, I saw what Grandma must have seen. 2 women so consumed by greed they'd forgotten how to love. You manipulated her, Victoria hissed. Turned her against us. No, I said, finding my voice. You did that yourselves. Every time you visited just to ask for money. Every time you rolled your eyes when she told her stories. Every time you tried to convince her to sell the house and move to a home. Every time you stole from her thinking she was too far gone to notice. We're her daughters. Patricia's mask had finally slipped completely. You deserve exactly what she left you, Mr. Whitman interrupted. What you already took. And if you contest the will, the theft charges will be filed. The evidence is overwhelming. I watched them deflate, their designer outfits suddenly looking like costumes on actors who'd forgotten their lines. Jenna, Victoria tried one last time. We're family. Surely you won't let this happen. Your mother would be appalled. My mother, I said evenly, died 10 years ago. And if she were here, she'd be appalled at what you've become. She was nothing like you, and Grandma knew it. That's why she raised me after Mom died. That's why she taught me the difference between loving someone and loving their money. Mr. Whitman cleared his throat. There's one more thing. He handed me a letter, Grandma's handwriting clear on the envelope. For my little mermaid. I opened it with shaking hands. My dearest Jenna, if you're reading this, then I'm off on my next great adventure. Don't cry too much. You know I never liked tears at the beach house. Salt water belongs in the ocean, not on faces. I'm leaving you the house not because you're my granddaughter, but because you're the only one who ever understood what it meant. Not the money. Lord knows I never cared about that. But the sunrise coffees on the deck. The terrible fish we caught and pretended were delicious. The nights we watched storms roll in and felt safe together. Your aunts will rage. Let them. They chose their path long ago, and it led away from love and toward ledger books. You chose differently. You chose Saturday morning pancakes and helping me garden even when you had better things to do. You chose listening to an old woman's stories for the 100th time. You chose love. The house is yours, but more than that, the memories are yours. Make new ones. Fill it with laughter and children and terrible fish. Teach them to sail like I taught you. Tell them stories about their crazy great-grandmother who wasn't as demented as everyone thought. And when the sun sets over the water, pour a glass of that wine I pretended not to know you were sneaking. And remember that I loved you best. All my love. Grandma Rose. P.S. Check the compass room. Some treasures aren't meant for lawyers and video cameras. I was crying now, real tears that had nothing to do with inheritance and everything to do with loss. Mr. Whitman produced a handkerchief, of course he had won, and waited patiently while I pulled myself together. The compass room? He asked gently. Our secret place, I managed. In the beach house, where we kept our treasures from beach walks. My aunts were still standing there, frozen between rage and fear of prosecution. I almost felt sorry for them. Almost. Mr. Whitman, I said, please file whatever paperwork needs filing. I'll be at the beach house. Jenna, Victoria started. No. I turned to face them fully. You made your choices. Every visit you skipped, every birthday you forgot, every time you hung up on her when she just wanted to talk, those were choices. And now you get to live with them. I left them there, in that sterile funeral home with their grief as fake as their tears. The drive to the beach house took 2 hours, but I'd have driven for days. I needed to see it, to feel it, to believe it was real. The key turned smoothly in the lock, and the familiar smell of salt and cedar welcomed me home. Everything was exactly as I'd last seen it, down to the terrible clay sculpture I'd made in 3rd grade that Grandma had displayed like it was fine art. The compass room was really just a closet under the stairs where we'd kept our beach treasures, shells, smooth stones, the occasional piece of sea glass. But when I opened it, I found more than memories. Boxes of photos, every visit documented. Report cards she'd saved. The Mother's Day card I'd made her when I was 8, declaring her better than a mom. And in the back, a small wooden chest. Inside were her original wedding rings, the ones everyone thought had been lost. A stack of savings bonds in my name, dated from my birth. And a new compass, silver and pristine, with an engraving. For Jenna, who always helped me find my way home. Love, Grandma. I sat on the floor of that tiny room and cried until I couldn't anymore. Then I walked out onto the deck, where Grandma and I had watched thousands of sunsets, and opened the wine she'd pretended not to know about. To you, Grandma, I said to the waves. To treasures that can't be stolen. To love that can't be forged. To knowing the difference between visiting someone and loving someone. The sun set in spectacular fashion, painting the sky in colors that no designer outfit could match. Somewhere behind me, my aunts were probably consulting lawyers, plotting their next move. But they'd already lost the only thing that mattered. The chance to be loved by Rose Sullivan, who saw everything, forgot nothing, and left her real treasures to the only person who understood their value. The beach house was mine, but more importantly, the memories were mine. And just like Grandma promised, I'd fill it with new ones. But first, I'd finish this bottle of wine and tell the ocean all the stories she'd told me, keeping them alive in the salt air where they belonged. After all, Grandma Rose had taught me well. The best inheritance isn't what's in the will. It's what's in the heart.